So I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I know I'm supposed to be telling stories about pro audio, but this is something that just kind of I got sucked into, and I thought maybe people would be interested in this. A few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I did a video on of Reflector Audio with their speakers, and I found a link to a person who reviewed it, and I think I put it into the comments area. But the one thing that bothered me about that video is the guy's voice was so low and so mumbled, you just couldn't hear what he was saying. And I just went back to it a few times. I go, this could be better. So I copied the software, the video, and then I trimmed it down, and then I um, used Waves L1 to bring the voice up, and then I used Ozone from Isotope just to kind of get the voice where I thought it should be, and then I brought it into DaVinci and edited it to make it exactly what I wanted it to be, and then I took it out of that and ran it into Topaz, the video AI software, to make it a 60 frames and make it a 4K video. And I'll tack on the end of this what it came out with, but it's so much more. It's not perfect, but you can hear what the person is saying now, and I thought that was interesting. I'll put the link in the description of the original video so you can see what the guy is saying. But I think everybody does this. When you see something that's just not right and you have the ability to fix it, and it's not going to take a lot of effort to make it happen. You just, I think it's the engineer in all of us that goes, you know what? Let me just fix this right now and make it at least a little bit better, maybe a lot better. And that's what I did here. I also put in a link, DaVinci, which is the software I use for doing all this stuff. It is fantastic software, and the software I use to capture everything, I'll put a link for that. It's free, and it's a very useful. It captures everything on your screen and the audio output, and then you just bring it in DaVinci and edit it the way you want to. So there you go, something a little bit different. I don't know. I think people are interested in this kind of stuff.
Hello, this is Mark McElroy. I'm here at the Electric Cave Recording Studio, and I'm here to talk about these speakers in particular. They're the Reflector. They call them the Square 2 speakers. The model on these, I think, is the Square 2. And I've been using them a lot lately, and I'm really happy with them, so I decided to make a little video talking about them and what is it that I like about them. So, they're a great full range, realistic sounding speaker that you can do mixes on, which these days it happens more often than not. As a matter of fact, there's some really good budget speakers out there that you can work on that will be fine. So, why do you need a special speaker? Is I guess the question. But these really have some attributes that can't be found anywhere else. And so I say this because I obviously own a bunch of speakers, and I have about 3 or 4 of the sets I'll rotate in from time to time. I'm always looking for that, that solution, and the solution is usually cross-checking between speakers. Um, but how do you get that NS10, or these are NS1s, but I swap NS10s in here too. And NS1s are really similar. They're just a nicer cabinetry there. Um, how do you get that definition, but still be able to hear your low end or work with your low end accurately? Or how can you mix on them and then have a client in the room, enjoy the low end as you're mixing it? So that's where these speakers come in. They have this really unique. They have 4 woofers that all kind of face in a certain way, and they project out in an enclosure there. And then the tweeter is the entire middle section is the tweeter, and they're powered. They have their own little power amp that obviously is um, part of the design. So, which these days everyone expects viewer speakers to be powered, although I have a lot that aren't as well. Um, so, um, the most amazing thing about these speakers, and the reason that well, 2 reasons I'll say that I've gone to using them a lot. One is they sound really good from anywhere in the room, and that is the big difference. Some speakers, if you're, if you're not really in phase exactly, if you're not sitting, perfectly in the middle, if the tweeters aren't, coming at you just right, if just you really have to be in that, super proper mixing environment. This studio is, I've worked in a lot of studios all over the world actually. But this studio is my own studio, and it started as like a project studio where I now do most of my work, which often is the big case for a lot of recording engineers these days is the downscaling of the studio world. And so this is an old factory building that we put a studio in, and so it's bound to be less than ideal compared to like a place that was designed to be a studio. And we've done treatments over the years and kind of figured out, but it's also very practical. As you can kind of see, like this, the way this monitor sits here is just a little on the, from when I'm where I'm seated, it when I'm in the mixed position, it can meet with my ears, but other people in the room, that monitor might, just kind of block them out a little bit on one side. And but the amazing thing is, having said that, that these speakers sound great from anywhere in the room. That's the most important thing, I think. And when I have a client here, for example, I like mixing when the client's in the room. I actually prefer, I can get them to sign off on mix ideas right away, and get their feedback right away. And I kind of like that. But if there's a drummer in the back of the room, on the back row of seats in the back of the control room, they might be like, "Oh, hey, the kick isn't really sounding right." Oh, yeah, that's because you got to move your seat forward 2 feet. Then you'll hear the kick the way it really is, just on the back wall. Just because of the nature of the treatments in the room, or whatever the positioning of things, it just um, doesn't quite translate to that spot in the room. But with these speakers, I can have a room full of musicians all milling around, and it just sounds good from anywhere in the room. Um, for, I wouldn't say no good reason, but like it's incredible. Or the left-right phasing, like someone's off to the side a little bit. I mean, you hear a stereo field for sure, but you don't, get that every once in a while. If you're out of phase enough with those horn tweeters, it just doesn't kind of, things sound dull, or it just doesn't translate as like, ooh, what an exciting mix. I've actually gotten to use these more even while we're tracking in the control room. Someone's overdubbing. I'll put them on because they generate a really exciting sound, even though they're very compact too. You might think so. Right next to them is some Mackie H24s. They're pretty compact for a studio speaker, um, and they just make a pleasing sound as well as an accurate sound. So number one, you can hear from anywhere in the control room, and it's a little less, and you can just trust in that a little better, and other people listening can trust in that. And number two is I find myself using them. I recently have been, just having a good run of mixing on them. I recently just sent out a remote mix to a client, and there, you do it and you just expect the notes to come back, and there were no notes. They're like, "Sounds great, thanks." That's weird. But I find my mixing is just a touch more accurate, and so rather than, and you work on the NS10s and you switch over to the Mackies, and then I had some JBLs I used to have in there, and over the years I've tried all sorts of unique combinations. Bigger Yamahas, the NS, I think they call them the NS1000, the big three-way Yamahas, and I love speakers, and so I own about maybe three other sets of speakers I'll swap in here. But these have stayed here for pretty constantly since they've come in. I don't think I've moved them at all. They're just really useful, sound great, accurate, and like I said, not only are they accurate, they're pleasant to work on, and that the results speak for themselves. I'm getting some better results. So, having said all that, just wanted to introduce you to these because they're kind of amazing. You can feel free to ask any questions in the comments and kind of thing. I have some other videos on here about studio stuff you can check out on YouTube and wherever else you might be watching this. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time.